Welcome to the Brotherhood of Fatherhood podcast. I am your host, Scott Ramage, and my illustrious co-host is with me, Josh Price.
Illustrious. I love it.
How you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you today?
I'm good. I love doing a podcast about guy stuff. Like it's just energizing. So I've gotten a lot of messages, emails, DMs, all those juicy morsels from people who are listening to our podcast, dads that are listening to our podcast and are gaining energy from it. And so I love it. I'm super pumped about that. But what we're going to be doing today is talking a little bit about how busy dads manage, how we've basically been able to kind of still be amazing fathers, or at least work on being amazing fathers and husbands, and we've added so much to our lives. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. So just to roll this out, why don't you just go ahead and tell our audience all the things you're involved in?
Yeah, I have a gym, Loco CrossFit in Leesburg, Virginia. Obviously, the Brotherhood of Fatherhood podcast where we're helping guys just become better fathers, good to great, all those different messages. Then I'm a business mentor for Two Brain Business, where I help. I guess I've got, about 33 to 36 gyms that I help monthly. We get on monthly calls and work with them. And I'm also the lead mentor at Two Brain. So I also help with all the mentor education and training for all 30 mentors that we have at Two Brain Business. And then I'm always starting and stopping businesses monthly because I can't help myself. And what ends up happening is I realize, oh, that's just a distraction. Let me shut that thing down. But or not let it get out of hand, from everything else that I'm doing. In fact, I had a call with the owner, founder of Two Brain Business the other day, Chris Cooper, and I told him of the 14 ideas that I had, and it was really cool. I know this isn't really a business podcast, but he asked one question to me, one question about all the ideas. How far away from revenue are you? That was it. That one question.
Yeah.
And most of them, I had no idea. There's no answer to that. And he's like, just toss all those aside then. They're not worth it. They're not worth your time, your effort, your energy, if you don't even know how far away you are from revenue. Right. So, yeah. So how do I do all this? We'll get to that in a second, but I'm going to throw the question right back at Scott. Scott, what all are you involved in?
Yeah. So it's kind of the same kind of story, and it's been the story of my life for a while. So I work for a company called Level Method, and I wear many hats with that. It's a startup company. I think we're in year three. I've kind of been with them the entire time. So I've grown through pretty much every role there, and manage a team as well as do a lot of things myself. It is definitely a full-time endeavor. And then obviously the Brotherhood of Fatherhood, you and I, Josh, started that, and out of passion and vision for helping men be better fathers and husbands. And, just kind of the men's kind of looking to create the thing that we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Out of, our friendship growing and talking, it's really where that came from. I also, it's not paid stuff, but my wife and I work with married couples, and that is ridiculously time consuming. And then I'm always doing some other things. It's just that entrepreneurial thing. Some of them produce money. Some of them are a complete waste of my energy and time. And I'm learning that lesson. But it's it's a really good question. When people hear what we do, there might be some others that are in the same place. In fact, there's a good chance there's others that are in the same place, and there's a good chance there's listeners who just do like one thing. But thinking back on our guests that we've had, most of them have this kind of entrepreneurial edge, and they're always kind of doing something different. They own a business and they have a career, or they own property and they're doing this, and or they own a gym and they're mentoring like you, and they have this other things. So we're kind of all most of us or many of us are cut from that cloth of always pursuing. But the question comes is, you and I preach uh many over and over again, like, be present with your family, make time for your family, make time for those things that are important. I always say, hey, look, my faith and my family come before any financial means for finances. And that is a really, really difficult balance beam to walk. It is. I'm sure you find it too. There's days that I'll walk out of my office and I realize I've given my family like 10 minutes in the entire day and I'm going to bed. Um, and so that's kind of really the birth of getting uh, being forced to get my stuff in order.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, you know, and that's why we want to have this conversation is
Yeah.
because it is so incredibly important to put things into place where we can manage our energy and leave the most important energy for those that we care about the most.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. So one of the tools that we teach, it's funny. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go into mentor mode here and everything. But one of the first tools that we teach at Two Brain for any gym that we're helping, and you see these things in you know uh, uh, EOS, Get Traction, Gino Wickman, uh, goodness, just all kinds of business books. The whole roles and tasks. That's the place to start with this. Anytime that you're feeling overwhelmed, anytime that you're feeling like, man, where's my energy going and anything else. And what we tell is write down all the roles and tasks, that you're doing or could be doing, should be doing, would be doing, and it's a little bit of an exercise, but definitely starting with just what you're doing is so important, right? Write down, in my day to day, what are all the roles that I'm doing? And then within those roles, what are all the tasks? And sometimes you do have to start with tasks and then group them by role because you don't really see. So what does that mean? I mean, it could mean mentor, right? I mentor gyms. It could be marketer. I've got to put together content. I got to do podcasts. I'm going to have to write that down. It could be father, right? Because I want that to be in. Husband, I want that to be in. And then what are all the tasks with that? Helping with dinner, write it down. Cleaning the house, write it down. Uh, business calls, looking at projections and reports and finances and all of that. So that's the place that we tell everybody to start with and everything. And then step two, and this is where it really becomes powerful and everything, writing down the value of the task. So literally, like, how much time have you spent? So sometimes I'll tell people for the next 2 weeks, you're going to do this. And that's how important it is. For 2 weeks, I'm going to have you write down every single thing. Right. And then you can go online, Chamber of Commerce, you can look at job websites, you can look anywhere and basically match it up and see what you would have to pay somebody else to do that. So it might be $10, $15, $20, $30 an hour. And then you just organize those by that value. And then that starts to give you a roadmap of like success and everything of how to get out of these. So that next thing is, like, guys, it's weird because you don't run your house like a business, more than likely, a lot of you and everything. It's still a weird conversation with my wife, even though we've been doing this for years. But it's like, if we start seeing that we're doing these things often, it's like, can we buy help? Can we buy help? Right. Um, so Scott, I'd tell you, like,
Yeah.
if you haven't done that, do that exercise. Start there.
Right. Yeah, and we've had this conversation. We've actually talked about it on a podcast where I just don't like mowing the lawn anymore. I don't
Yeah.
like yard work. And I told you at one point, I don't think I really want to afford that. It's not that I can't, it's that I don't want to.
Hmm.
And you said,
Hmm.
"Well, let's do some math." And then you taught me how that looks and I'm like, "Wow, that's a really expensive lawn mowing I'm paying for, because when
Right.
I'm spending my time, that hour and a half or whatever, depending on the season, that I'm spending outside is other time that I could be spending at higher value, or higher, not maybe monetarily higher value, but higher value emotionally, which would be time intentional with my family. Now, if I loved mowing the lawn,
Oh yeah.
you know, that's different.
Yep.
That's like an activity that's giving me energy. And I speak
Yep.
a lot about what takes energy and what gives you energy. Uh,
Yeah, and that's kind of the fourth column is like a plus or minus column. Does this give me energy or take it away, or energy neutral? And that's kind of a more advanced step. The first step is get the low value tasks off of your plate. Look at them. I always say you want to look at it in terms of, do I really need to do it? That's the first question to ask. Does this actually need to be done? Number two is, can I automate it? Right? Is there, a computer system or something that could actually handle this for me? Can I delegate it, being next? And then can I, if I have to do it myself, then it needs to get scheduled, right? And done. But every single task should be looked at that. Does this actually need to get done? And I'll just be honest with you, you probably find that 30% of the tasks that you think you need to do don't need to be done. And you can get rid of them almost immediately and free up, tons of time. Um, Automation in the home, probably a little bit. I'm not an expert on that. I'm sure maybe there's a podcast right there. Maybe we should find a,
I'm sure we have an expert in here.
yeah, in the group on that. But delegation, I am an expert in. I am an expert in delegation through all the businesses and all the people that I've hired and everything else. And I think that's a place that we can look at. Like, there are a lot of tasks within the home, within your businesses, to buy back time that you might look at it and say, well, this is a $20 employee. I don't have this, or it's a $15 employee, or I'd have to hire somebody for 40-hour weeks and I don't have that. And that's one of the things that we found at the Brotherhood is hiring virtual assistants.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to kind of talk about that, how it actually came out of the
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah. So Josh and I started this thing, and it was time consuming. It was time consuming doing a podcast, recording it. You're looking at an hour top to bottom, making the notes, all the things, and then going through all these steps, editing. So we paid someone to edit, and the person did a phenomenal job and mentored us through that. But it got expensive. I
Yeah.
mean, and so for us, it was like, okay, how can we maintain the Brotherhood of Fatherhood podcast and all the things that are happening within the Brotherhood of Fatherhood, and still meet all of our other obligations that we had in place? And if we were doing all of that, we couldn't.
Yeah.
Something we had to give.
Yeah. Well, it literally did, right? Like for you, you were editing, you were doing all
Yeah.
these things, when we couldn't afford to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. So one of one of the owners of the company that I contract for told me once that he uses VAs, and he told me once, and actually I don't know if he did this on purpose. I think he might have been doing this to challenge me, but he said, "You'll never be able to get a VA." He's like, "It's too hard. You won't you won't succeed at it." He's like, "They'll quit. They'll disappear. You'll get them all trained. And this is a truth that I hear over and over and over again." So I'm the type that's going to be like, challenge accepted. Like,
Yep.
okay, thank you. So I went, Josh and I went through this process, and I went and did a bunch of uh, courses that were free. I searched high and low. Some were from a paid service that we use, and I found a VA, and I started recording everything that I did. So, hey, I'm going to edit a podcast. This is the last time I'm going to edit this freaking podcast.
Hmm.
And I recorded it, and came up with a system to interact with this new VA I hired, who was learning everything as she's going. And before I know it, hey, the next week's podcast, here's your edit. Oh, wow, that's really cool. Let me listen to it. It's just as good as I would have done. Okay, maybe we need a tweak here and there. Before I knew it, we had our podcast being edited, the promos being created, video clips being created. Now we're on YouTube because we didn't have time and effort to put on YouTube.
Yep. Yep.
And of course, that's at a cost. But then I'm like, there's some tasks at work that I do that do not take talent. They
Hmm.
do not take, they just have to be done every week, and they zap my energy. They're
Yep.
super like, go into this spreadsheet, double check this,
Mhm.
cross reference this, and post this. So I started recording those. And I'm like, man, this is pretty freaking awesome because it's just happening every week now.
Right.
And it was buying me time. So, that's where this this all got started. And it's been a lifesaver. If you enjoy the Brotherhood of Fatherhood podcast, you can thank that we got smart and realized that we didn't need to do everything.
Yeah.
You can thank Josh's training that he has had and does for other on how do we not do this but still
Right.
provide it.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and it's absolutely incredible. I mean, people out there are, doing these tasks for $2, $4, $6 an hour that, would cost a lot more, or like I said, would cost you a full-time employee. And they're out there and there's resources like onlinejobs.ph, virtual Latinos. I wish we got kickbacks from these companies, but we don't. Fiverr. There's just a lot of places that you can go to find them and anything. And then, of course, if you're listening to the podcast, reach out to us and we'll, of course, guide you, give you some tips and tricks and everything that we've learned. But let's talk about this. Like we've kind of talked about it for business, and we've got some dads that own businesses and everything else, and how to buy back their time with it. But what's really cool is like you can use it inside the home as well. Like research is probably one of the coolest things
yeah,
that you can use a VA for, right? Could take 10 hours, 20 hours, 40 hours to research something that you just don't have the time for and everything, and they can give you a good synopsis and breakdown and everything else. So Christmas is right around the corner, right? The PlayStation 5 is one of the hottest items out there. You can't get one if you go on like PlayStation Direct or whatever to buy one right now. Can't find it. There's a site out there that actually monitors all the sites in the world of when they come in stock. Okay. You want a PlayStation 5 really bad. You don't have the time. You can hire a VA to monitor
yeah,
that freaking site for $2 an hour, $2 that you can't afford to do yourself because you're out there working and everything else, making whatever you make. Right. And then they could go and buy that thing for you and get it done without you then having to go to eBay right now. But basically the only way you can get one is at eBay for 3 times the price. And most people don't know this, but if they're not an authorized reseller, it voids the warranty if you go buy one of those $1,200, PlayStations. So that's just one way as a dad
I
you could use
feel
it.
I feel really stupid right now. And here's why. My son asked for a pair of Jordan 1 shoes, a
Yep.
specific colorway. And every time we found them, my wife was doing this. She'd find him and say, "Is that 175 bucks?" Oh my God. Okay, whatever. You go in, you put his size in, $575. So she spent literally half the day yesterday online.
Yep.
And here I am going, honey, just find something. Maybe this isn't a good gift. When all I could have said was, let me assign that. And
Yeah.
tomorrow you'll have a list of all the prices in his
Yep.
size and colorways. We could
Yeah.
have had every like a list. I kid you not, because I've done this before. Hundreds of options with every price, including shipping. And then you mentioned something that I get a lot of feedback from because people ask me a lot about VAs. I've done a lot of calls with business owners. They're like, "How are you doing this? I've tried it before and I failed." And we do hold some pretty sick secrets. We've hacked the system. If you yeah, I feel like a VA hacker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but the these are highly intelligent people. They are college educated. They are hard workers. They tend to be shy. That's just kind of this is an overarching. It's not everybody. Tend to be a little more introverted. They want to please and they want to be a part of your team, whether it's your family team or your business team. And I've took me a while to trust them with credit cards and there's ways to actually share that stuff and keep it secure. But I could literally give one of our VAs um access to money and say, do this. And the next day I would have a report and it's incredible, you guys.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And this is what I should have done. We probably would have saved $100 if I had this done with,
Right.
and the time my wife spent looking on the mass amount of interwebs. So it's such a great tool.
Yeah, it really is. Like that research thing is so big just to take care of anything that um that you can't do, or um my wife doesn't listen to this podcast, so I had them search her Instagram and Facebook to find out what she wanted for Christmas.
Yeah, that's awesome
Yep.
because it's not you creeping. It's
Um,
just, yeah, yeah. And
so
the point is like we can get trapped really, really quickly. And what I happen to know is that a lot of people have the yeah buts, like yeah, but I'm like, so what I have actually done is with people, I'm like, look, I'm gonna just prove it to you. Give me a task. Give me a really hard task. So I had a guy give us a task, and he recorded himself doing it, and I passed it to one of our VAs, and she came back with a spectacular product, and she didn't even have all the assets yet. And that was overnight. And the point of the story is that you, unfortunately, you're not that special. Like if you taught yourself to do it, it's really quick to teach someone else to do it, and saves you so
right.
much energy.
Yep. Yeah. Scheduling vacations, done. Takes them one time to know your preferences and everything else, and get it done. Shopping for your wife, shopping for your kids, researching Jordans, sitting there for 8 hours to get me a PlayStation, whatever it is. Like it really is just incredible what you can use, a virtual assistant for. Um, Obviously in your business, anything that is tedious work that can't be automated, to be done. I mean, it's just shopping, shopping. We got Amazon, we got Walmart right now. You want your groceries done every single week without you having to lift a finger. Like if it's something you want to do, minus maybe produce, that's what my wife would say.
Yep.
Give it to the VA, give it to the VA and have them do it. And then it's delivered to your doorstep every single day.
Yeah, and there
Perfect.
may be an error. But the cost of that error is so low, and then you just adjust. And I know you guys are probably thinking, man, you guys are hyped up about this, but the freedom that it has
Yeah.
given us, and then the other people that we've talked to, the freedom, it's like, holy cow, I never realized that I hated this so much. And now I
Yeah.
don't, it's done and I don't have to worry about it. And so the very cool thing right now that I want to make sure is I know, and this, I don't want this edited out. My VA, my head lead VA, will be editing this
Yep.
podcast and hear this, and I want her to know how thankful we are
Yeah.
for her taking
Absolutely.
taking the baton, learning things, and then we can repeat that with other VAs. So she's incredible. Thank you, EJ. Shout out to her. She's opened our world to having amazing team members and
Yeah.
giving them a phenomenal income earning opportunity, because that country pays much differently than our country. So
Right.
we're actually helping them. It's absolutely beneficial for them.
Yep. Win-win. Win-win. Thank you, EJ.
Yeah, she's
Probably a perfect time to stop.
yeah. So hey guys, I know it sounded like we're jazzed up about this. We Josh works with many, many, many business owners. I have a very large network of people. In fact, I had a conversation. I'm carrying this on. I had a conversation with a guy yesterday, and he was telling me all these things he has to do, and my head wanted to explode. Like you're not doing any of it well because you're trying to be everything to everybody. So don't. You might want to evaluate. Are you trying to be everything to everybody, and how can you open up some time for more value with your wife and your kids? Because this is what this is all about. How can you build relationships by not doing the things that are kind of zapping your energy and your time? So, as Josh had mentioned earlier, if you want hints, tips, or help, that's just literally reaching out to us. So, if you're a podcast listener and you're not in our Brotherhood group, you can either go join our Brotherhood of Fatherhood group in Facebook, which I would, if you're a guy, I really want you to do that. if you are a female or are not on Facebook, go ahead and just email one of us. My name's Scott and Josh is Josh. And then it's brotherhoodfatherhood.com. So Josh at brotherhoodfatherhood.com. There's no oven there. So those are the action items for this week. Like if you're hearing this and you're like, I need some help, email us. We'll help you out. Thank you for being a listener of the Brotherhood of Fatherhood podcast. Hit that little red subscribe button. If you are a watcher, go to YouTube. We're there too. If you're a listener and you're watching right now, we're on every podcast platform out there, including Amazon, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Have an awesome day.